Greetings out there. I am Liz.
And I am Scandal.
And we are here to do a short book response to, preview book response to Midnight Thief by Livia Blackburne.
Read by...
As read by me.
Woo! Be delighted. Anyway.
So, if you haven't heard the preview, I would love it if you would go check it out on the channel because feedback is always welcome. Also, this will probably mean a lot less to you if you haven't read the book. However, if you have listened to the preview or actually read the whole book, we're just going to share a bunch of our opinions here.
Unfortunately, I don't know if I have a lot of opinions. So I appreciate that you wrote words, Livia Blackburne, but I did not give a shit. I hate to be mean like that, but and to me, I don't feel like it's mean. I just wasn't interested. It was really slow. It was it just felt boring. I wasn't really intrigued by a lot of the material. It was very bland and very dragged into going, oh yes, and this is our inciting moment. I mean, again, I understand not every book needs to be like that, but it was so boring. I don't even really remember how it went, so maybe I'm a terrible person for this, because I was just like, there you are, reading the book.
So, for me, I actually performed the book, and I found it engaging enough while performing it, but I was trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing with some of the characters. A number of authors, they'll write really clear characters where you can figure out... Sorry, our studio's attacking us. Whoops! We can figure out largely what it is the characters are like, or people will also talk about how characters sound, or even if there's a distinctive accent in the area. And the
strong voice was not there.
Yeah, so really clear voice, and especially character voice, was not there for me. And it became clear after a time that plenty of them spoke with an accent in, the 2 chapters that I read. But it was it wasn't obvious at first at all, and there was no clear setting at all, other than this is in a city.
That's why I said it was so bland.
The world building was about this big.
This big. And the thing is so apparently, Liza was talking to me going, a lot of people were really excited about this book because they were like, it's magical realism. And I was going, I felt none of the magic. There was no really strong world behind it at all, it felt like. A lot of the thing was just kind of there's a space and we're walking through it. There's a space and I climbed up a wall. There's a space and there wasn't anything there. And I'm not necessarily asking for exposition, but because it's a book, exposition is sometimes really helpful because you can't visually see it.
So I guess she did keep things pretty simple, which would have created a faster pace for things.
But it wasn't fast.
Except for it still seemed like it went slow. Even editing the voiceover to present it, I had a hard time staying engaged once I wasn't actually performing it. A couple of things I did notice, though. It looked like it was going to have potentially a love triangle kind of theme, which a lot of these books do. They didn't actually go into any real depth of detail describing the physical experience of the characters, which was kind of fun in the sense that it was different, but it was also a little bit awkward for me because it's you have sort of second and third hand descriptions suggesting the characters are what you want them to be. That our protagonist, that she is going to be a small, delicate, petite thief type.
Yep.
Because she is a thief, but also just being so you're 17, and there's this awkward little conversation where she doesn't know how old she is because she's been basically a street rat most of her life until she became a thief, and that they measure, the guess of her age against when she started her period, but the fact that she's looks like about the size of a 12-year-old, for her height. And that she hasn't grown any in the last year.
Incredibly variable? Okay, so for background from me, I thought that line was hilarious because I knew a freaking 12-year-old who was younger than I was when I was 13 or 14 years old. They were 6 feet tall.
Yes.
So screw you, author. Again, I don't mean to be mean, but I'm that means nothing to me. I have met a 12-year-old who was 6 feet tall, okay, and she was big.
Now, some people can argue there is an average height of certain school-age kids. However, we don't in a fantasy world. We don't know anybody's ethnicity. Your average height of a 12-year-old, even if you have a fairly consistent society, is going to be different in Japan, is it going to be in America, is it going to be in some sort of specific slum. Anyway, so that was a little bit unusual. You get the idea that she's the size of a child, and yet she is a woman. Anyway, but also they have somebody describe him, the male counterpart to the protagonist, her only friend, well, no, not only friend, but her primary friend and business
Who
partner,
seems to
if you
also
will.
be her primary love interest, and I called it pretty quickly, even though the character herself, which I don't even remember her damn name, Kira? There we go,
Kira.
Kira. Kira seems to have no interest in her, but he is very strongly basically being set up to be the pretty boy that going to be one of the pretty boys she's interested in.
No interest in him.
Yeah.
So when Scandal said he's the love interest, I was kind of frustrated because it seems more like he is really interested in Kira and specifically like collected her, if you will. And that could be innocent, but the way these books work, it usually isn't. And so I don't know where that goes. It'd be interesting if someone who has read the whole thing would come and weigh in on that, because those were the two major themes that I got, was basically that you had you were gonna have sort of a thief experience, movie,
Mm-hmm.
and that there was going to be a love triangle. That one, there was going to be a love triangle, and then the other one was going to be that he was solidly interested in her, but she was either oblivious or uninterested. Like, she has several cues where she describes like him being way more invested in her, but she also describes him sort of finding her on the streets as a child and then aggressively pursuing her, but quietly and thoughtfully, of, I will offer you jobs, I will give you food, I will keep talking to you, like coaxing you out of your hole
Mm-hmm.
until we eventually work together. And at the time, he was 14 and she was a small child. And so I'm like, feels a little creepy. But that's just, again, with the beginning. And also, I was reaching for things because I was a little bit disengaged. The only part of the book that sounded interesting to me and was very scant was what was suggested to be your antagonist character, James.
Okay, see, and I'm just like, again, I was so disassociated, I didn't even care. Like, I'm like, I was bored. I will be completely honest. It felt very rote to me, and also, again, it went too slow for me, and wasn't also interesting character. I don't care about any of these characters. I really haven't. Me, personally, if I was going to say based off of that, I would never read the book.
Yeah.
I have no interest in this book. It is a poor setup, in my opinion. It's not very engaging, it has poor world building, and it has nothing that I really care about at all. I don't just read books because, oh, they're in the setting, which is what I feel like sometimes some people do. And sure, I get that. I used to do that more as a kid. But
Sort
now,
of like when you're just like, I'm looking for anything fantasy.
right?
Yes,
and
you're
you're
like,
really
God, I just want a fantasy.
But I really will say that as the years have gone on, you guys, if you're younger, oh my god, or even if you're just reading more books now, you have so much more going on. It's amazing.
And
But it
many
also
more.
means so many things are so heavily repeated, it's obnoxious.
Yeah. As there is more literature out there, you really have the ability to filter more for what you specifically like, and you really should. Anyway,
Yes.
so The Midnight Thief for me was not particularly remarkable in any way. It was more interesting simply because I was performing it, but again, I didn't find any investment in what was going on or the characters, and would not have continued reading it just if I had just picked the book up off the shelf, which was kind of disappointing for me. The author seemed to know what they were doing as far as what they were after. Maybe I was just in the wrong mood for it, but I kind of agree with, maybe not as harshly as Scandal,
I know.
but that it didn't feel very engaging, and it didn't feel like tropey enough even to go, I know what this is. It just kind of didn't catch me.
Well, the thing is also for that, so the reason I say also it's tropey in some ways, because it was so bland, it felt basically like a new writer. So for me, that's what sounds like a new writer, or a newer writer.
Okay.
Of going, what I'm trying to do is trying to sound like other people, and this is sort of how I do it. They might have a really good idea, but it's also possible their editor got in the way and went, you need to establish a romance or some other hot guy for her to be
something.
interested in or whatever else. And I'm just like, I just don't care.
It was kind of funny when they described the only two men that they described in the first
I
two chapters.
know, it's so weird.
Was, her partner, and then
That I don't remember
whose
his name.
Yeah, I know.
I know we both will keep looking at each other going, do you know what his name is? I have no idea.
Yes, I know. Okay, and then James's name I remember because he was there very briefly, but he was more interesting.
He had more character.
Yeah, more character. He had more style to him a bit.
He was more distinct.
Yeah, that one. There we are. That's a good way to put it. He was more distinct. Anyway, it just, yeah, there was.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway,
what did happen was that there was a couple of spots where I felt like the editor did or didn't intervene effectively, because there was a couple of places where I felt like the book sort of repeated itself phrase-wise, which was interesting, because when I was editing, I was like, did that repeat itself? Oh no, that's the actual language of the book, kind of thing. And I was reading it carefully, and a couple of times I paused, and I was like, is that really what it says? It didn't feel bad. It just felt a little inexperienced. I can agree with that, but it didn't have a lot of the hallmarks of a brand new writer, so there we go. Anyway, I have been Liz.
And I am Scandal.
And thank you so much for joining us for this. Again, if you do have comments, feedback, suggestions, thoughts on the book, projections, opinions, we would love to hear them. Additionally, there are other book previews and reviews, reactions on our channel. We would love it if you would check them out, and take care of yourselves out there.
Yeah, have a great day, guys. Bye!
Bye!